88.7 FM. Online, gobrave.org. A tune-in radio station, part of the William Patterson Broadcast Network.
Broadcasting live from Hobart Hall in Wayne, New Jersey.
This is
The Innovative.
I think they're really unique.
The Fearless.
They have awesome variety.
The Kick-Ass.
I love Brave New Radio.
The Sensational.
I've never heard anything like it.
This is the one and only Brave New Radio.
The views and opinions expressed on this show are solely those of the host and guest and are not necessarily supported by WPSC 88.7 FM, station management, or the station owner, William Patterson University. Anyone wanting to offer differing opinions may do so by calling the show at 973-720-2738. Abusive callers will be rejected. Now here's your program on WP 88.7 FM, Brave New Radio.
Well, good morning, good morning. Good morning to you. And once again, it is Saturday morning, and we're together again for another edition of the Reading Circle with Marc Medley. And this is indeed your host, Marc Medley, as we bring you what's going on in the literary world early on a Saturday morning. And if you think it's early here, it's even earlier where my guest is. And he rose early. He's already on the line. I'm going to get him introduced shortly. But we're going to follow our usual ritual and routine, which means I am going to share what's going on in our local area with the weather. And then I'm going to read from two books. I'll introduce the guest. I'm going to share some information with you. We call it a public service announcement or a PSA. Then once we do that, we're going to come back and resume with our interview. I teach public speaking, and one of the parts of the class that we teach in there is called Tell Them What You're Going to Tell Them. Tell them and tell them what you told them. Well, I just told you what I'm going to tell you. And as soon as we get into it, I will be telling you. And then at the end, we'll wrap up and I'll tell you what we told you. So don't you move unless you're getting on your social media sites. And let someone know that the Reading Circle is indeed on the air. Today is April the 8th. I was not with you last week. I actually took the week off, or the Saturday off last Saturday, so I'm glad to be back with you this morning. The weather right here in the Wayne, New Jersey area. We are moving up or working our way up to a high of 55 with a low of 37. Partly cloudy skies, high near 55. Clear skies tonight, low of 37. Then on Sunday, plentiful sunshine, high of 67, low of 47. A few clouds on tomorrow night. Monday, except for a few clouds, mainly sunny, high of 76. Low of 55, and as we roll on into Tuesday, sunshine and clouds mixed, high around 80. All right. A low of 55 on Tuesday night, and then on Wednesday, expect some showers in the morning with some clearing in the afternoon. High of 69, low of 46, mostly clear on Wednesday night. Well, that is the weather brought to you right here from the WP 88.7 FM Weather Center. I read from two books to kick the show off, and everything else just kind of flows positively after that. The first one is from The Power of Being Thankful, 365 devotions, about the strength of gratitude. That is by Joyce Meyer. April the 8th, God says, quote, I will be with you. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not fail you or forsake you. Joshua 1:5. The presence of God in our lives helps us overcome fear. If we know by faith that God is with us, we can be grateful for his presence and we can take on any challenge with confidence and courage. We may not always feel God's presence, but we can be thankful for his word, remembering that he said He would never leave us or forsake us. In the Bible, the basis for not fearing is simply this: God is with us. And if we know God's character and nature, we know he is trustworthy. We do not have to know what he is going to do, when he is going to do it, or how he is going to do it. Simply knowing he is with us is more than enough. Prayer of thanks. Father, I am grateful that you have promised your presence will never leave me. Thank you that no matter what things look like around me, I don't have to fear, because you are with me and you will carry me through. That's from the book, The Power of Being Thankful, 365 Devotions for Discovering the Strength of Gratitude. Nothing like being thankful. Until today, that's the second book that I read from. For today, April the 8th, I am willing to acknowledge what I know when I know it. And that's by Ian Van Zandt. If you really want to get yourself in trouble, act like you don't know when you know that you know. This usually happens when you base your clarity on the response you get from others. When you have to convince yourself that what you see, what you feel, what you think is not true, not right, not real, you know, but you are acting like you don't know. When you are seeking validation from external sources, you are acting like you don't know, and you could get into a lot of trouble. You will know you are acting like you don't know when you try to act, and that action is in conflict with what you do know. At that time, your mouth will become dry, your stomach will tighten up, your heart will begin to race, and your mind will scream, "Stop, stop now." Your mind is simply responding to your self-denial, which is always a sign that you know, but are trying to act like you don't know. This is also a sign that the spirit of life is on your case, and it is not going to give up. It is an insult to life, to your inherent power, to the blessings that God has given to you to act like you don't know when you know that you do know. You know what people are doing. You know why they are doing it. You know because you see how they are behaving. You know what you need to do. You know what you must stop doing. If you insist on acting like you don't know when you do know, you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble. You know what I mean? Until today, you may have judged your own clarity based on how others respond to what you know. Just for today, be devoted to knowing that you know. Be willing to act like you know. Talk like you know. And the moment you find yourself being lulled into the stuff of what someone may tell you that they know, remind yourself that you do know what you know. Today I am willing to acknowledge, admit, and accept that I know what I know. I'm going to sum that up in a few words that my mother and father told me as a child, and that's think for yourself. All right, those are the two books that we kick off and read from. My guest has been patiently waiting on the line. He actually called in early. I asked the guest to call in 5 minutes or so before the show, but my guest this morning called in about 25 minutes before the show. He called in at 5:35 my time, about 2:35 his time, because he's over in Van Nuys, California. My guest this morning, and he's not a stranger to the Reading Circle because he's actually on here a few years ago, is author Willie Bruce. The bio is real short, to the point, and we'll talk a little bit about it as we get going. It says, I grew up in the streets of South Central Los Angeles. I became a street hustler at the age of 13 years old. I've learned to cherish just waking up each morning. I thank God for that. I now reside in Van Nuys, California. I give thanks to all of my family and friends for having my back from day one. I love you and God bless you all. Sincerely, Willie Bruce Jr. Welcome back to the Reading Circle microphones, Willie Bruce Jr. Willie, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I am doing well, thanks. How are things going with you on the West Coast?
Everything all right, man. Just the middle of the night out here. You know?
Yeah, it is.
I remember the time.
Oh, no, that's right. I was telling my mother last night, look, whenever I come home, by the time I get in and get everything settled, it's 9, 10 o'clock, I'll be hitting the bed. And she's like, you haven't called me. I said, I don't feel like talking to nobody. I'm going to bed when I get done. So I know what you mean. So I am going to share some information with our listening audience. And then when we come back, we're going to get started. And we're going to walk it back a little bit because I know you were here a few years ago whenever you wrote. At that time, was that your first book when you were on the last time?
Yes, sir. That was The Kings of Credit.
Yes. So, and now you've written another one, and I'm glad to hear that. You got in touch with me, and we're back on the air again. So stay there. Don't you move. Listening audience, you know what to do. And that is get on all your social media sites and let someone know that Willie Bruce Jr. is on the air with me.
I really didn't feel safe anymore at home.
Every year, tens of thousands of youth experience homelessness.
The possibility of sleeping out on a park bench, it's not something that a 15-year-old should have to think about.
1-800-RUNAWAY provides 24-hour access to a nationwide network of housing and support services.
I felt such warmth. I felt comfort. I felt safe.
Call 1-800-RUNAWAY. Go to 1-800-RUNAWAY.org or text 66008. We can end youth homelessness.
Having a place to go after school will make you a better student. Having an outlet to express yourself will make you a better artist. Having something to do together will make you a better family. At the Y, we're helping build better friends, listeners, writers, swimmers, scientists, and musicians, one chance at a time. Give the gift of opportunity. Support the Y at ymca.net. The Y, for a better us.
Listen, as a hiring manager, I've got to tell you, the best job candidate isn't always the typical candidate. Sometimes they're a grad of life.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Sometimes the best candidates aren't the ones you're used to.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
You're listening to The Reading Circle with Marc Medley on Brave New Radio.
WP 88.7. We're braver than skinny dipping in the middle of January. See? I told you. Brave New Radio.
Yes, indeed. We are braver than skinny dipping in the middle of January. That's mighty brave there. But in any event, you are listening to WP 88.7 FM, and we can be heard all around the world on gobrave.org. So anywhere that you have internet connectivity, whether it's on your mobile device, if you have the TuneIn app, download the TuneIn app and then save Brave New Radio at WP 88.7 FM on your phone, and you can hear us on that. If you need your computers, it's just a matter of going to www.gobrave.org. Make sure your speaker's on, and you can hear us anywhere in the world. And of course, if you're in the New York, New Jersey area, we're on FM radio WP 88.7 FM. Right before I shared that information with you, I read the bio of my guest, which is Willie Bruce Jr. And Willie, it says, I grew up in the streets of South Central LA. I became a street hustler at the age of 13 years old. Now, of course, the question I would have, and there had that old saying or tagline or motto from the Inquirer, inquiring minds want to know. Inquiring minds, I know this inquiring mind want to know, how did you move from street hustler to author? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, like I said, I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. I've been there, done that. And I do know. You know, you say act like you know. I do know. I know a little bit about the streets, man. Hustling, and back in the 80s. You know, I'm 54 years old, so anyway, back in the 80s, man, when things was really, you had to really get your grind on.
Right.
You wanted to have what you wanted in life, and I wasn't a college graduate or anything like that, so I had to get it the best way I could. And in doing so, I ended up doing a whole bunch of time, a bunch of prison time, a lot of wasted years out of my life.
Right.
You know, I think we had discussed that last time I was on the air with you with the Kings of Credit. Actually, 21 years of my life was spent in prison behind my behavior. And when I got out, I met the love of my life. And she turned me around, and here I am 17 years later, you know, with 5 kids and doing what I need to do to make sure that everybody's taken care of course, legally. You know, I don't even think about doing anything crazy no more, man. It used to be that was all on my mind.
I know that's right. And it's interesting that you remember the last time we talked, because I did bring that up then, and I bring it because that is a good news story. Now, those 21 years for you may not have been good, but at the same time, the fact that you were able to do that, come out, turn it all around, and do what you've done and make of yourself what you've made of yourself, that is a good news story. And I work with kids every day that I try to help them understand. First off, don't do anything to get yourself in that situation. And somebody like you could tell them better than I could, because you were in the situation and know what it could come out to. And
it could lead to, yeah, I've been there and done that. And I talk to the youth all the time. You know, every time I get a chance, I let them know. Hey,
absolutely.
Man, what you're doing has been done before. And this is where you want to end up at. You know, it ain't all glitter and fame.
And see, that's the thing, that eventually, if you do this, you're going to get that. Now, you may run for a little while and not get caught, but if you keep doing it, eventually you're going to get caught. And that's the message I try to get across almost daily. Like, don't get yourself into the habit of doing this stuff, because eventually it's going to catch up with you. And the fact that you can go around and tell students and children your story, and they could see it live, that you're not making this stuff up, that this was real,
right,
the more the help that you're actually going to wind up doing. And that's good that you go around and talk to the kids. You said you were 54. Man, you were born the same year then, so 1962.
1962, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a very good year, man.
Yeah, very good year. Yeah, I'll actually be 55 in October.
All right, same here with me in August. That's where I'll be in August. So I'm a couple months ahead of you then. So let's talk about let's talk about, like I said, I asked the question, did you write the first book while you were in, or did you write the book after you came out, the first one? Because I'm going to work my way up to this new one, Tit for Tat, baby. But the first one.
The Kings of Credit, actually, I've written 7 books while I was doing my incarceration. And when I got out, and I went in 87 and got out in 2000. And my niece, Kim Robinson, she's the one that cut me into you. And she got a book out called, it's about my family, The Ruin the Gumbo. Right, so, you know, her and I, we was communicating while I was locked up. And she said, you know, you need to tell some of your stories. So, you know, my mind went to work, and I said, well, okay, I can do this. And then when I got out, I created the Kings of Credit. And it was with her help. She was my publisher on that particular book. You know, and I was like, hey, you know, this is good. You know, everybody needs something to do with their time.
That's right.
At the time, it was more of a hobby. And what I used to do is I had a program when I was in prison, you know, and I've been in every prison in California during that time. And what I used to do is I wake up in the morning and go to work, a little job that was paying me like 8 cents an hour, 8 pennies an hour, or something like that, you know. And then as soon as I get off work, I would go get my workout on, and then I would set up my shop on my bunk. And I would start writing, and that passed the time, and it kept me away from the riffraff, and kept me out of trouble.
Right.
Because I was one to quickly react, you know. And in doing so, I spent a lot of time by myself, you know, locked up in the hole, and we call it the chute.
Right.
And stuff like that, you know. So I said, well, okay, this is what I need to do. And as time went on, I got pretty good at it, because I can remember my first book that I wrote. It was like let's say 298 pages or something like that, and it was all one paragraph from the start to the finish. It was no separations, no sentence structure, none of that. It's just the opening line to the end of the book was just like one long paragraph. So I said, and I showed it to a cellmate of mine, and he said, man, you need to educate yourself. He said, this is a good story, but, man, just start reading, right? And in turn, I went to, because I had already had my high school diploma.
Right.
And I went back to school in there for a refresher course, and I just started going to the library, man, and I was in Folsom. And Folsom Prison, I just started going to the library and just reading everything I can. And then I still look back. I actually have the original handwritten draft of that one.
Wow.
Free Life on the Edge. And I look at it, every now and then I do a little spring clean and I look at it. And I just start laughing. And I'm proud, and I got a lot of people proud of me as to the way I was then and the me that I am now.
Yeah, I know, that's right. And that's why I say that's
care about people.
Right. That's why I say that is a good news story. And we call it, it has a redemptive ending to it. Your story has a redemptive message in there in terms of it's never too late. That's for one thing, that you can always turn it around. It's never too late. And at the same time, like you said, you know what, you wound up educating yourself, because it's funny because I remember Kim's been on the show a couple times as well, and everybody always tells everybody there's a book in you, but very few people take people up on that. And so the fact that Kim could keep telling you, you know what, there's a book in you, and you took her up on that, even that says something. And the fact that you said, you know what, you still have that first manuscript, that first handwritten, that's good, because it's always good to go back and remember.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, matter of fact, I spoke to Kim the other day, and she's working on a new project. She's always got something going on. She's always writing. And, we stay in touch.
Right.
With this one here, what I'm doing is kind of my own thing. What I do is I have my website, williebruce.com.
Right.
WILLIEBRUCE.com. And, I get emails I have a PayPal account, and people buy the book, through my website. It's also on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, stuff like that, but I prefer that they get it through my website. That way I can send them a personally autographed book, which if they go through the other companies, they won't get that.
Okay. So we're going to, by the time we get to the end of the interview, we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I tell you what, let's talk about, where do you get your ideas from for your book? Like, we'll talk the first, how many books did you say you've written in all?
I've written 7 books. 2 of them has been published.
So 2 have been published. Where do you get the ideas for your storylines? Where does that come from in terms of, you have a vivid imagination, or, where does it all come from?
That's basically it, man. I just, I might be watching TV and get an idea of something. It may be a current event, what's going on in the world today, like the Kings of Credit, right? It was actually a friend of mine. He passed away, but he was in that field, in the credit field. He was you got these places to say they claim your credit and stuff like that.
Right.
And he used to tell me stories, and I'm like, man, that would be a good book right there. And he wasn't a writer, but I was. So I took on the task and just ran with the ideal, and got it to moving. And it the lines just kept compiling, and I was like, well, okay, that sounds good. I would go over it 1,000,000 times in my head to make sure that, okay, it was worded correctly.
Right.
But it was, it's all imagination.
It's interesting because I've interviewed Omar Tyree 2 or 3 times. And generally, whenever we're talking about this same question, he says the same thing, that he watches a lot of movies and a lot of television. And from that's where a lot of his concepts come from as well. So,
well, everything that you see on TV was somebody's dream. It was something that somebody put together. Even the prison system, that was dreamt up by somebody long ago.
Right.
Hey, I can make money off of off of incarcerating these people.
Oh, yeah, and that's getting to be a bigger and bigger business every day because more prisons are going private.
It is huge.
Yes.
It's huge. And I can contest to that because, you know, I've actually worked in basically what they look like as sweatshops.
Right.
You know, and they pay you, it's called PIA, Prison Industry of America. And what it was, I was a supervisor, and they were paying me, as a supervisor, I was getting 73 cents an hour. And I started with 8 cents an hour.
Right.
You know, and what it is they pay you, and then you give the money right back to them by going to the canteen. Correct. You can go to the canteen once a month, and I used to make roughly about $125 a month. And I was at that time I think I was what they call first draw, right? Which you can go to the store in the beginning, the first week of the month.
Right.
Right. Whatever your last two numbers was of your prison ID number. And I would go there, and I would give them all their money back.
Yeah, that's basically how it works. You're absolutely right. You make it there, and then you spend it there, and that's how. And that's also how you all got whatever your supplies and things were, like your toothpaste or whatever. That's how you would get that.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And at that time, it was Prison Industry of America was owned by Bob Walker. Right.
Okay. Not surprised.
Yeah. It was owned by him, and I'm pretty sure is he still alive? He's still alive.
You know what? I think he is. I want to say yes. I haven't heard of him passing away, but I think he is. Because there's a lot of people.
Still got his hands in it.
Yeah, he probably does. I wouldn't be. I mean, you would be surprised. Maybe no, you wouldn't be surprised how many folks have their hands in that industry, and the sad part is, it's too many folks who look like me and you who are on the other side of the industry. They're not on the receiving side. They're not on the payment side. They on the incarceration side. That's the other message we try to get across as well. But at least, yeah, go ahead.
On my Facebook page, which is author, like the author of a book, Willie Bruce, on Facebook. I spent a lot of time cultivating that. But my man, my son, out of New York,
right,
the rapper, man, I like that youngster. I like him. He tells it like it is, and he speaks the truth.
Right.
You know, what he's talking about as far as criminals, the modern day criminals, man. You know, there's another name for it. Long time ago.
Right.
That's what they call us today. You know, it's criminals, but it's the exact same premise.
Right.
Exact same thing. You know.
That's absolutely right.
It's crazy, but like I say, I can contest to that. That is exactly what it is, because I done been on the yards where you have 1,000 people, and it's either let's say it might be 600 Hispanics and it might be 300 blacks.
Right.
You know, and maybe 100 others, what they call others.
Right.
You know, Asians and stuff like that. You know, but the majority was blacks and Hispanics.
That's correct.
And so I can vouch for the profiling.
Right.
Which is what it is. And
that's absolutely right. And that's why, again, we have to be so careful, because it doesn't take much.
It doesn't take much. But, you know, everything is coming around full circle as of now. From, you know, every time I look, you know, where my folks is really like getting tired of it and taking a stand.
Right.
But everybody has to be unified, man. It has to be unity. That's the only way we can make a change. Because it's blatant. That's what it is. You know, I don't consider myself a racist or anything like that. You know, I love my people.
Right. That's exactly right.
That's the bottom line.
Yes, it is. So now you had your first book, Kings of Credit. And you've written others that weren't published, but now this last one you did publish.
Yeah, Tit-Tat.
So let's talk a little bit about that. What's going on with that? Now I don't want you to give the whole book away because we want people to buy it to find out. But let's talk a little bit about the the overall or the synopsis or the general of what the book is about? Because I'm looking at the cover of it now. I see the limousine, and I see the young lady with her back turned, and that's either a tattoo on her. I guess that's a tattoo, which makes sense with the title.
Actually, I just, that's a vivid recollection of what's going on in the book. The main character, which is Ronald Cooksey, which is he's a fictional character, and I actually named him after a friend of mine that I've been knowing since I was 16 that just passed away from diabetes about 6-7 months ago. His name is Ronald Cooksey.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I have him as a successful Beverly Hills real estate broker, and he falls in love with a beautiful chauffeur. And it's Caucasian characters, right? But he falls in love with a beautiful chauffeur. She dies in a car crash, and he blames the limousine company for her death after he found out that she did not want to go pick up a certain client that always sexually harasses her out of Malibu. He's a raunchy Italian millionaire.
Okay.
And every time he sees her name was Joy Marina Taylor. Every time he sees her, he hits on her,
Right.
And, sexual advances and stuff like that. So she had informed the manager of a lower limousine service, a fictional company that I created, and told him, hey, I don't want to pick this guy up no more because this, that, and the other, and I'm uncomfortable. And the guy says, well, you're going to do it or you're going to lose your job. So she goes and picks him up, and she ends up dying in a car crash because he tries to make an advance for her, tries to kiss her while she's driving.
Wow.
And then, she pushes him away and accidentally scratches his face, and he hauls off and hits her, and everybody loses their life. He dies because she runs head on into a oncoming gasoline truck.
Wow. So I'll tell you what, stop right there. We're not going to talk because we're going to whet the appetite. So, folks, because, just listen. Go ahead.
Ryan is pissed off now.
I'm sure.
Yeah, and he takes revenge against the company. And what you see on that book cover is actually, instead of Tit for Tat Baby, is carving the word allure into the backs of the rude clients.
Wow.
The nice clients that's respectful, and because I own my own limousine service, and for instance, I kicked a lady out the car one time because she was very racist.
Right.
And it was my car. It was my limo. So I don't know what
you say it's my car. That's right. Get out.
Yeah, but I pulled over on Pacific Coast Highway, actually in Malibu, and told her to get out.
Get out. That's right.
15 minutes later, I get a call from the dispatch, and what's going on? Well, the lady did this, that, and the other. So you got a problem with that? I ain't, no. Can you go pick up this person now?
Right.
I just kept it moving.
That's right.
This whole book is about respect.
Exactly.
Because you got people, and I know for a fact, you got people that, patronize limousine services that think that you were put on earth to serve them.
Right.
And you're just trying to make a living and take care of your family. And, they have a really, really bad attitude. So I'm hoping that, when this movie is made for this book, that it's going to be, you're going to have a divided nation, and you're going to have the hardworking class people, man, that are going to be like, yes. And then you're going to have the people that's actually, doing this as far as having their nose in there, thinking you were put on earth to serve them. You're going to have them thinking about their actions. Like, man, am I really like that?
Yeah, because
that superficial?
You're absolutely right. And see, that's why I really have an issue with folks who try to look down their nose or either put somebody down or think they're better than somebody based on what job they do.
Right. Or how much money you have.
Exactly.
My mother told me a long time ago when I was a kid, ain't nobody on earth better than you.
Right.
And you have to know your worth.
That's right. That's right. For me, And because I've served in a lot of these positions, in terms of being a custodian, being a secretary, being a jet engine mechanic, I've done a lot of the so-called blue-collar type jobs as well as the white-collar jobs. And I tell people all the time, don't you dare. Like when I work in the school, don't you dare try to put the custodian down because they're the custodian. And truth be told, Willie, the positions that people look their nose down on are really the positions that are the most important because they're the ones that usually run things. I mean, you don't think they are, but they are. I mean, I tell people the first people you need to meet when you go into a building is a secretary, security guard, and custodian, because those are the three people that keep a building going.
Wow.
And the same thing with you, like as the driver, you have, just like the book is, you have your life. I have my life in your hands when I'm sitting in your car and you're driving.
Exactly. I mean, I didn't have people, man, that were just crazy.
Right.
I'm like, wow, you got to really. I had to stop, and sometimes I had to bite my tongue, man.
Well, I know you do.
It's too crazy.
Yeah.
It get too way out. Then at that point, I don't give a damn about losing this account, because I believe in respect, man.
That's
Without
right.
respect, you have nothing. You have total chaos. Somebody got to put their foot down.
That's right.
And I don't care if you like me or not, but you're gonna respect me.
That's right.
There's no in between. It ain't, and there's no gray area between respect and disrespect.
That's correct.
It's either or. And I give everybody their respect, man. I don't care who you are. I'm gonna like you until you give me a reason not to.
And that's the way it ought to be, especially in terms of the respect. So your books are self-published. Did Kim publish this one, or did you use somebody else, or did you do it yourself?
No, I did this myself.
This one you self-published on your own?
I learned the game from her.
Aha, because that's what I was say. The technology in 2017 makes it, because back in the day, 2030, when we were kids, somebody who wanted to publish a book, they had to do it because there was really only one way. You had to send it into a publishing company, and then you had to wait for them to send you a letter back, and usually it was a rejection, and then you send it to another publishing company, and you just went through that process till somebody finally said, you know what, we'll do your book. But nowadays, with the technology and everything there, we can do our own thing. Because I'm looking.
Social media is a blessing.
Yes, indeed.
You know how to use it. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Most of my guests for the last few years have come through social media.
Yeah.
So
no doubt about it, man.
I'm looking at the cover. If you self-publish, that means you had the opportunity to pick all your photos. Because that means you didn't have a company telling you what to do. You kind of could do your own thing.
Well, I have the same cover designer, Scott Carpenter, great guy out of San Francisco, and he's the one that did the Kings of Credit. I actually met him through my niece, and now that I'm doing my own thing, I'm reaching out and I'm learning the business. I learned the business. So I got in touch with him. I said, Scott, look, this is what's going on. This guy is scoring these people's backs up with a razor, writing a limousine company name. I need something, maybe a beautiful woman showing her back as to what this guy is doing to these people in his limousine,
right?
Because of their action,
right?
And he said, well, okay, so what are they doing? I said, they're writing the name. Well, this guy is writing with what they call a X-Acto knife, right? He's writing the name of the limousine company into their backs with a razor.
Wow.
Right? So can you hook up something, right?
Well, I tell you what, he did a good job because it is eye-catching, and that's the one thing, as you know.
Thank you.
Seriously, and I love book covers. Anytime I talk to the authors, we always talk a little bit about the covers because it makes so much of a difference. And what the average person who's not in the industry don't realize is everything is done intentionally and by design. Like there's nothing your cover designer did that didn't have a purpose to it.
And he's great, man. He's actually what I'm doing right now is I'm republishing. I'm getting the Kings of Credit. I done spruced it up, man. It's really spicy.
All right.
Yeah, and it didn't do well because of the marketing, because I didn't know what I was doing.
Okay.
And like I say, Kim Robinson, she's doing her own thing now. I'm not going to get into that, but now I learned the business, and it's my project. So I'm saying, okay, well, the Kings of Credit really didn't do that good, but now I got a chance to have it refocused, reappear in a different light, and with a different marketing plan.
Well, you know, the funny thing about what you just said, you're absolutely right. And then the good thing is that you can always reintroduce. And back to what I was saying about the cover is everything matters in there, even down to the choice of color. And I'm looking at the limo, I'm looking at the scratching on the back and everything. It's there. Now, going back to what you just said about the marketing, a lot of times the question I will ask about that is to an author is, which one do you enjoy most, being the talent or being the business person, or both? Some people say both. Some people say I'd rather somebody else do the marketing and I just like to write. Some say, I like me. Both. That's
that's me right there, man. I enjoy the writing. When you get into the business, man, that's when you get to pulling your hair out.
Now, let me ask you a question, because this is where everything to me connects. Because, like, reading the bio, you said you were like, 13, you were a hustler. How much of your hustling skills can you use now for something that's legit?
Oh, it's invaluable now, knowing what I know. The sky is the limit.
Right.
It may come a little slower, but when it comes in abundance. It's the same thing.
Exactly.
You're moving a different product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I try, there you go. Instead of moving something that's illegal, now you're moving something, that you created, and it's your product. And it's the same skills.
It's the same premise.
Yes.
Rather than now you're dealing with like me, I go through Create Space. That's my publisher. Right. I mean, that's my printer.
Right.
And I'm doing all the business with them. They get theirs off the top, and I order my books, and I move them through my website.
Right.
I really try to cut out the middleman.
Right. And I don't blame you, because that's more profit on your end.
Right.
So I tell you what,
I got some great reviews on this book too, some nice reviews, and it's because I know it's. I'm not trying to toot my own horn.
You need to do it.
Somebody else wrote this book
right
here, and I read this book, and I would be like, man, I would give that person their praise. This is it's a thriller. It's a revengeful romance drama.
It's one of those that you just want to constantly keep reading because you want to see what's going to happen next.
And I've been told that. And I can believe that because I wrote the book.
Exactly. Do you ever have a situation where you've reread it and said, wow, I can't believe that came through me?
Yeah. In the beginning, now I'm not surprised, right? Because I get comments from people all the time, even stuff I post on Facebook.
Right.
The way I've been told that, man, you're good with words. Well, I mean, they come naturally.
Right.
But, and it's a rule, you're not supposed to edit your own work.
That's correct.
Because I can read a page 1,000 times, and I'll let you read it, and you're going to find a mistake.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because my mind is already set that, okay, man, this is perfect, but you're going to look at it from your point of view, and you're going to be like, well, nah, man, just look at this word right here. Where's the word that's supposed to be here?
No, you know why? Because the mind does interesting things. It happens if we're writing a letter, if we're writing an email, if we're writing something, or posting on Facebook. It actually happened to me yesterday. I was posting something on Facebook. The mind, if you're the writer, because your mind already knows what you want it to write, whenever you type it in or write it in or whatever, it assumes it's there. And you may have left a word out, but your mind still sees it. So that's why when somebody else reads your work, they pick it up. It's like, no, that word's not there. I was writing a post yesterday about my father passing away 32 years ago. And at the end of the post, what I meant to write was he would have been 81 this year. And what I wrote was he was 81 today, and I didn't catch it until after I'd already hit the send button. But in my mind, I was thinking that I wrote this year. That's what I was thinking, but I wrote something.
I was confused now.
Right. And so it's like now I went back, like, all right, I'll put a commentary on this. Because the crazy thing about it, the beginning of the post says he passed away 32 years ago, 1 week shy of his 49th birthday, which means his birthday is on the 14th of April. He passed away on the 7th of April. So you're right. Somebody reading it might say, okay, which is it? Is the birthday a week later or is the birthday today?
Yeah.
But it's right.
I lost my parents. I lost my father. Like I said, I went in 87 and got out in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
And I lost my father in 94 to cancer, pancreatic cancer.
Mm.
And 4 years later, 98, my mother passed away.
Wow.
She had developed Alzheimer's. And she had me when she was 39 years old.
Okay.
I'm the youngest of 9 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
So like my oldest sister right now is like, I want to say 75, 70
Okay.
years old. And
God bless.
I'll be 55 in October.
Right. So
yeah, it's hard. So I can relate to where you're coming from, even though that was 32 years
32 years ago, but it seemed like it's flown, man. It really does.
Yeah, you never forget them. They're always in your heart, though.
Exactly. So listening audience, I hope you've been with us since 6, but if not, my guest this morning is author Willie Bruce. I'm going to share very quickly a promo with you, and then I'm going to come back, and Bruce and I will wrap up. But the book is Tit for Tat, baby. Willie Bruce, that's the title of his latest book, the one that's out now. Again, real easy to remember, Tit for Tat. I mean, Tit for Tat, baby. Willie Bruce, and it is, I could see, it's a thriller. It's one that'll keep you on the edge of the seat. I can tell that just from looking at the cover, that it's something that you want to pick up and say, what's going on here? And that's exactly what a cover is supposed to do. So stay there. You know what to do. If you didn't do it already, get on all your social media sites. You heard me and Bruce talking about what a blessing social media has been. Yes, get on all your social media sites and let someone know that Bruce is with me for another 15 minutes or so. And if you don't want to miss it, hopefully, again, like I said, you've been with us since 6 because, again, Bruce's story is a redemptive story. And oddly enough, the exact same skills that he used being a hustler out in the street are the exact same skills he needs to use to sell his books. So stay there. Don't you dare move.
WillieBruce.com.
Stuck in the same loop of music? Let me love you. Music that you can't stand? I'm in love with the shape of you.
Please, make it stop.
Mark your calendar for Friday, April 21st and listen to a playlist of 15 bands in 15 hours. Brave New Radio's 9th annual Brave-a-thon, Friday, April 21st from 9 a.m. to midnight, only on Brave New Radio.
The Spin Cycle. Putting a new spin on your average Sunday afternoon. Join me, Bridget, every Sunday from 1 to 3 on The Spin Cycle. No politics.
Not letting our companies bring their money.
No laundry. Just music. What you want to hear, when you want to hear it. From the Ramones to Louis Armstrong to Blink-182. Let me call you when I'm sober. And more. I've got you covered. All on CD and vinyl. Every Sunday from 1 to 3. The Spin Cycle.
Want to expand your horizons? Want to broaden your mind? Well, listen to the only show of its kind. Listen to The Reading Circle.
We bring you what's going on in the world of reading, in the world of books. Sometimes the book may be from 20, 30 years ago, because the thing about books, they are timeless, particularly if there's a good message. And then there are times when we do books that are hot off the press, that were just released.
Listen to The Reading Circle every Saturday morning from 6 a.m.
The Reading Circle with your host, Marc Medley.
Only on WP 88.7 FM.
Yes, indeed. We're right in the middle or near the end of another edition of the Reading Circle with Marc Medley. My guest this morning is author Willie Bruce, and we're talking about his latest release, his latest book, Tit for Tat Baby. Says the Beverly Hills super real estate mogul Ronald Cooksey is the greatest man or the gentlest man on earth. However, when the love of his life, his fiancée, chauffeur Joy Marina Taylor, dies in a car crash, he becomes enraged. Ronald blames the manager of Allure limousine service, Michael Big Mike Kushner, for her death. He takes revenge against the limousine service by kidnapping and maiming their wealthy clients. He commences with his plan to kill Big Mike and then take his own life afterward because he desperately wants to reunite with his Joy in heaven. And that's a little brief of what Tit for Tat is all about. If you want to find out how it all unfolds, you're going to have to buy the book. You are going to have to purchase the book. Willie, is it available online, or is it just, when I say online, I mean like in Amazon, or is it electronic, or is it just in paperback or hard copy, or what formats is it in?
It's in paperback and electronic. It's on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, a bunch of other book sites. And it's also on williebruce.com, which I suggest that because you will get a autographed copy.
So you can actually download it to your Kindle?
Yes, it's on Kindle too.
Okay, so you can download it from Amazon. All right, so before the day is out, I will download that because I want to start reading about how Ronald, does his thing here.
He goes insane.
That's interesting because he actually scratches something in the back of the people that he kidnaps. Wow.
Well,
so
he's not killing anybody. He's not, that's not his intention.
No, he's just leaving a message. He's sending a message.
Yeah, he want to teach you a lesson.
That's right. He wants to send a message.
That's only if you come to him with some BS. You're going to get some BS.
Wow. Now, when you develop your character, what do you go through as you're developing your characters? I know, like this one, you said you actually named one of the characters after a very good friend of yours who passed away. But what do you, I've heard all kinds over the years, all different types of stories of when people are developing their characters, how they live with them, they sleep with them. I don't want to kill them off. I was going to kill them off, and now I couldn't do it. I mean, as you were developing your characters, what are some of the things, you went through?
This life experience is, I just take the character of different people that I've dealt with, that I like I say, watch on TV and stuff like that. Just pick up different characters. But the hardest thing for me is character names.
Okay.
Naming people. I'll spend 20 minutes just trying to make up a name for a character.
That's interesting because that's the first time I've ever heard that. I never thought about it in terms of how do you name your characters.
I can create a whole page, but when it comes to naming a character, I have problems with that because I guess I know so many people.
Right.
But the main thing is I have fun with it. Just have fun.
Bingo. And that's it.
I've been writing Tit for Tat now for 7 years.
Okay.
7 years now. Yeah, it's these books. When you see these books in the stores,
right?
My favorite author is really I love John Grisham.
Okay.
I love his law tale. Being a lawyer.
Right.
And I pick up a lot from him.
Right.
Pick up a lot from that guy.
So I heard you say earlier that you were looking at the possibility of turning this into a movie. You have anybody in mind to play various characters?
Well, when I created this one, Joy Marina Taylor, she lasted maybe about maybe 30 minutes of the movie, but her character was designed after Cindy Crawford.
Okay, all right.
And the main character, Ronald Cooksey, more like a Richard Gere.
Okay.
Like a younger Richard Gere.
Right.
And Big Mike Kushner, he has a major role in it. More like a Ving Rhames.
Okay. Now that's interesting because as I read books, because reading, I don't know if a lot of people, and maybe they do realize it or not, but when you're reading in your mind, it's almost like if you were watching a movie. At least for me, it is. So when I'm reading, I'm actually inserting characters in. Who would be good to play that role? Who would be good in that one? And in my mind, as I'm reading the book, that becomes that person. So now as I'm reading yours, the fact that you said these names, that's probably the faces who are going to pop into my mind as I'm reading it.
Right. And, I got a hell of a soundtrack up in it as well, because of the different characters that's interacting within the movie.
Right.
Within the book, whatever, like my man Melvin, he's a Rastafarian.
Okay.
And so, it's whatever he's listening to.
Okay.
What you're going to hear. But when I write a book, actually I write movie scripts. So I love writing scripts, man. It's so easy. And it's very easy to write them as opposed to a book, because I got to get you to see what I see.
That's right.
Or what I want you to see. When you make the movie, the scene is already there laid out for you. All you need is the description and the dialogue.
Right.
So, but people say that when I write, the way I write is like I'm writing a movie, like I'm writing a script.
Hey, and again, like I said, when I'm reading it, for me, because I don't watch a whole lot of television. Most of my time, if I'm not doing something else, is spent reading. For me, books are my TV, and people look at me odd whenever I say that. But for me, as I'm reading a story or a biography or a novel or whatever, that's my TV for me. So my mind is working as I'm reading, just as if I were watching a television show. Mm-hmm. And so I understand exactly what you're saying.
Oh, so, yeah, I try to be vivid. And
yes.
I try to get you to see exactly what I see.
Yes.
A scene in the book where Joy is sitting on Pacific Coast Highway looking out at the ocean, and what she see out there is just a nice, serene atmosphere. And I got to get you to see that.
Right. That's right. And that involves word choice. It involves the scenery and really painting the picture for people. You're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. You got to put yourself in a peaceful frame of mind when you're dealing with that ocean.
That's right.
You got to be you have to have a zen-like quality about yourself. You got to be totally relaxed. And then, when you get into some of these chase scenes and stuff, you got to put yourself, you got to build that adrenaline up. When you're a writer, you got to be many different people. You got to be male and female.
Right.
And even there's an animal, it's a Samoan husky in the tit for tat, and you have to play his character.
Uh-huh.
You gotta, how dogs, tilt their head to the side.
Yes.
You kind of wonder what you gotta. I had to play all roles. I even had to play the animal role. The dog name was Cody. I had to, feel his reaction to whatever commands that Ryan Cooksey was giving him. You got to play a lot of different roles.
Exactly. All right, we're down to the last couple of minutes of the interview, and at that point, Willie, what I do is I shut the mic off on my end, and I give you the chance to hustle. I give you the chance to promote. You can say anything with the exception of the dollar amount, and folks can figure that out. I know I see the price of it here on your website. So, folks, if you want to know that, go to his website. But he can say anything. If you're doing any book signings, any appearances, how they can get a hold of any of your work. And the latest one is Tit for Tat, baby. But this is your chance to promote. This is your chance to hustle. So I'm going to be quiet and let you do that, and then we're going to close out. But it's been good talking to you again. It's been a few years.
Likewise, man. I appreciate you for having me on.
All right,
so such an early hour.
Yeah, it is, exactly. You can get a chance to get some sleep.
It is. I'm going back to sleep.
I know that's right. So I'm going to turn my mic off, and you get a chance to promote.
All right, man. God bless you, man. I'd like everybody to go out and check out williebruce.com. That's my website. That's where you'll find both of my books. The one I'm currently promoting is Tit for Tat, Baby. It's a love drama. You're going to love it. I guarantee you will not be disappointed. And when you approve of it, I appreciate it if you go and tell all of your friends. That's Tit for Tat, Baby by Willie Bruce. I'm on Facebook as author Willie Bruce. Check me out. Thank you, and God be with each and every one of you. I enjoyed the morning. Now I'm about to go to sleep.
I know that's right. Well, I tell you what, I do record it, and I always make the little disclaimer in terms of if we had any equipment failure, but I think everything looked like it was doing what it was supposed to do this morning. So once I'm finished editing it, I will email it over to you. It goes on my YouTube channel as part of the archive. So if anybody who didn't rise early with us this morning, they can still go back and hear the interview. And also you can email it and put it on your website, do whatever you want to do with it once you get it, because it's yours.
Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Same here.
I'm going to send some other authors your way.
All right. That'll work. Yeah, but yeah, it's just a matter of an email or either, inbox me on Facebook, however we do it, as long as we can connect.
Okay.
All right.
You got my email, right?
Yes.
All right, man. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you.
Well, thank you. Same here. Have a wonderfully blessed day and week, and I wish you nothing but the best with Tit for Tat, baby.
Yes, sir.
All right. Take care. Yep.
Bye-bye.